Poor girl dressed ugly to ruin a blind date. But the billionaire CEO watching nearby fell for her. I married someone who I'd only met once. Not out of love. Not even out of desperation. I just wanted to ruin a blind date. So I wore the ugliest dress I could find. Smudged my eyeliner on purpose. But he didn't laugh. He didn't walk away. He looked at me and said, "Let's get married." He thought it was a joke, until the certificate printed. And by the time I realized who he really was, I had already fallen for him. The date was never supposed to survive. A rainy Friday evening in Seattle. Outside, the city pulses with impatient traffic and neon reflections in puddles. Inside a downtown bistro, soft jazz plays over crystal glasses and hushed conversation. The air is thick with expensive perfume and even thicker expectations. On first dates change your life. Mine rewrote it. I didn't want to be there. Not in that dress, not in that room, not in that version of myself. But when your family's broke and your aunt's convinced that your future depends on impressing a man twice your age, you show up. Even if you show up with smudged eyeliner, clashing prints, and a plan to ruin everything. Jenna Cross, 27, storms out of the ladies' room wearing the world's ugliest outfit. Orange eyeshadow, fake freckles, and a floral sweater that screams, "Stay away." She's not nervous. She's furious. Across the room, Ellen Cross, her overbearing aunt, waves from the corner booth beside Mr. Lee, a smug 52-year-old with thick fingers and thinning hair. As Jenna sits, Mr. Lee's eyes narrow in confusion. "Mr. Lee, you don't look like your photo." Jenna filters are magic, right? She plays dumb, eats like a wildling, brags about her 4 cats, quotes conspiracy theories, anything to make him leave first. But someone else is watching. Near the bar, in a charcoal gray hoodie, sits Grayson Ward, 36, featured, unreadable. He's not there for drinks. And he's just found something unexpected in a woman who's trying too hard not to be seen. As Jenna storms out into the rain, the door swings open. Grayson steps in front of her, umbrella in one hand, marriage form in the other. "Grayson, you want out of that date? I'll give you a better one." "Jenna, what is this?" Gray. "A deal. 1 year. No strings. Just sign here." She laughs, then signs. And just like that, she becomes Mrs. Ward to a man she doesn't know, who might just know everything about her. Chapter 1. The Girl in the Ugly Dress. I didn't show up to impress anyone. I showed up to sabotage myself. My aunt called it a golden opportunity. A blind date with a wealthy divorce twice my age. "All you have to do is smile," she said. "He already likes your photo." So I did the opposite. I wore the ugliest floral sweater I owned, clashed orange lipstick with green eyeshadow, and tied my hair into 2 lopsided pigtails. I looked like a woman on the brink of a breakdown. That was the point. He took one look at me and frowned. "You look different." "Photoshop," I said, deadpan. "Modern miracle." I ordered escargot just to watch him flinch. Slurped it too. Talked about alien conspiracies, quoted Nietzsche and flatulent statistics, said I collected haunted dolls. By the time I claimed I once dated a mime, his hand was already halfway to the check. "Excuse me," he said, rising stiffly. "I just remembered a business call." "Right, a business call, at 7:43 p.m. on a Friday night." I smiled sweetly and waved him off. My aunt, seated 2 tables away, pretending not to spy, shot daggers at me with her eyes. I shot back a shrug. I stood up to leave, thought that was the end of it. But then someone blocked my path. He looked like no one special. Gray hoodie, week-old scruff, no visible watch or designer anything. But his posture didn't match the outfit. He didn't slouch, he didn't shuffle. He stood like a man used to being listened to. "You're wasting it," he said. I blinked. Wasting what? Performance? It was brilliant. Deserved a better ending. I tilted my head. "Let me guess. You're the talent scout for dysfunctional first dates." "I'm the guy with the solution." That's when he pulled out the form. White paper, black ink, marriage license application, my name already printed at the top. I stared at it, then at him. You're joking. I don't joke. Why is this? Some kind of YouTube prank? No tricks, just an offer. He met my eyes. You need out. I need a wife. 1 year, no strings, just sign. I almost laughed, almost. But then he handed me the pen. Who are you? I asked. Someone who saw you? And for some godforsaken reason, maybe the sweater had melted my brain, I signed. Right there, in the middle of a half-crowded restaurant, wearing blue mascara and a mustard-colored skirt that did nothing for my hips. I married a man I didn't know. And that's how it started. Not with roses, not with rings. Just 2 signatures. And a lie neither of us could keep for long. Chapter 2. The certificate we shouldn't have signed. We didn't say much on the way to the courthouse. It was quiet, not the uncomfortable kind, but the kind that makes you forget you're sitting next to a stranger. His cologne smelled like cedar and something colder, like winter air after midnight. I kept sneaking glances at him, wondering how someone like him ended up with someone like me. The clerk barely looked up when we slid the form across the counter. First marriage, she asked. We both said at the same time. I almost laughed. He didn't. She clicked through her screen, printed something, and slid it back. Sign here. Both of you? My hand hovered over the paper. For a split second, every bad decision I'd ever made came rushing back, but I signed anyway. So did he. The printer whirred, the clerk stapled. Then she said the line that made it real. Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Ward. I remember blinking. Ward? He never told me his name. He looked at me, not with a smile, not with nerves, just stillness. Like this was normal. Like marrying a woman in smeared lipstick and combat boots was part of his 5-year plan. He offered me the certificate. I didn't take it. Pit, I said. Souvenir of your worst decision. He smirked. You haven't seen my worst yet. Outside, the rain had stopped. The sun had started to break through the clouds in thin gold lines. The world had no idea that 2 complete strangers had just legally promised to love, honor, and be financially entangled for the foreseeable future. We walked in silence to a parked gray sedan that looked way too basic for a man with hands that didn't belong to a barista. He held the door open for me. Still polite, still unreadable. Where are we going? I asked as I climbed in. Home, he said. Yours or mine? Doesn't matter. You live with me now. I should have said something clever. I should have said no. Instead, I fastened my seatbelt and stared out the window. The truth was, I had no lease, no job, and $37, 0 cents in my bank account. And I'd just married a stranger with a shadow in his voice and secrets behind his eyes. And for the first time in a very long time, I didn't feel lost. I felt chosen. Even if I had no idea what I'd just chosen in return. Chapter 3. My husband has no last name. The elevator in his building didn't have buttons, just a sleek panel of mirrored glass and a voice-activated system that didn't ask for directions, just access. He said a single word. Penthouse. The doors closed like silk sliding shut. I stared at my reflection, still not used to it. The smudged lipstick, the lopsided braid, the fake freckles I'd drawn across my nose like armor. And beside me, the man I'd just married. Grayson Ward, if that was even his real name. No rings, no past, no explanation. The penthouse was less home and more catalog, concrete floors, floor-to-ceiling windows that made the whole city feel like a painting. A kitchen that looked untouched, a hallway too long, a silence too sharp. This is wow, I said, because that's what people say when they walk into places they don't belong. He didn't look up. You hungry? No, I mean yes, but I'm fine. He nodded once, then walked toward the kitchen and started boiling water like it was something he did every day. I followed him, mostly to remind myself he wasn't a ghost. "You live here alone?" I asked. "To be nice. It's quiet." "So is a tomb," I muttered. He didn't laugh, but I swear the corner of his mouth twitched. He handed me a cup of tea and finally sat down across from me, elbows on the marble island, sleeves rolled up just enough to show a faint scar across his wrist. "What's your name?" he asked. I blinked. "Excuse me? A real name? I don't think we covered that before the whole legally binding vow thing." "Jenna," I said slowly. "Jenna Cross." "Okay, Jenna Cross." His voice wrapped around my name like it had always known how to say it. "Here's how this works." And just like that, the tea tasted colder. "You and I are married on paper. That means you'll stay here, in this apartment. You'll attend a few family events with me. Pretend we're in love. Smile at the right moments. Wear something nice when I tell you. And in 1 year, we sign divorce papers. No strings, no mess, no press." "No press?" I repeated. "Are you famous or something?" He didn't answer. Instead, he stood and walked to a drawer, pulled out a slim envelope and slid it toward me. Inside a black card. No name, no logo, just a thin gold stripe and a contact number. "That's for emergencies," he said. "What kind of emergencies?" "You'll know." I stared at the card, then at him. "No offense, but who the hell are you?" He paused, looked at me for a long time, then said, "No one." And somehow, that answer felt more dangerous than any name he could have given me. That night, I slept in a bed big enough to lose myself in. The sheets smelled like lavender and something colder. His cologne maybe, or just the scent of someone who never stayed in one place long. I stared at the ceiling for hours, replaying every word, every silence, every flicker in his voice. Grayson Ward, the man with no past, no smile, no last name that made sense. And me, the girl who wore an ugly dress to a blind date and accidentally married a ghost. Chapter 4. The CEO I sell coffee to. By Monday morning, I was back behind the counter at the ground floor cafe of Ward Tower. Yes, Ward, as in the same last name my fake husband pretended not to have. I didn't know it yet. I just knew the coffee machine was temperamental. My apron still smelled like cinnamon syrup from last week's spill, and the line of grumpy men in tailored suits stretched out the door. Again. Seattle rain trickled down the windows as I scribbled names on cups and burned my fingers on steamed milk. Same as always. Then he walked in. Not Grayson. Someone who looked exactly like him, only in a suit so sharp it could file court papers. He didn't wear a hoodie today. Didn't slouch. Didn't pretend. But the worst part? He didn't even look at me. He stood in line like he belonged there, which he probably did. But not here. Not in my line. Not in my world. I stared at him like he was a glitch in the Matrix. And when he finally stepped up to the register, I tried to play it cool. "Good morning," I said, feigning casual. "Can I get your name for the order?" He didn't blink. "It's already on the cup." I looked down. Sure enough, someone else had written it, in clean block letters. G. Ward. My throat went dry. I felt the markers slip from my hand. He took the coffee without meeting my eyes, walked away with the smooth, silent confidence of someone who owned more than just the elevator buttons. "Do you know who that is?" my coworker Mia hissed from behind the pastry case. I lied. "That's Grayson Ward, the CEO. Like the room spun? Grayson Ward. My husband. The man who offered me tea and a black card and a marriage I could disappear into. He was the one signing our paychecks." I wanted to scream, or laugh, or at least throw a scone at his head. Instead, I made another cappuccino, for a man who would later walk into our shared penthouse, sit across from me at dinner, and pretend he hadn't just iced me out in front of the entire corporate hierarchy. That night, I confronted him. He was reading on the couch, Not a novel, but some spreadsheet-looking thing on a tablet that probably determined the fate of 6 countries. "You didn't say anything," I blurted. He didn't look up. "About what?" "The Cafe Serato. You didn't acknowledge me." He paused, then finally raised his eyes. "You work in my building? I make your coffee. Good coffee. But that's not the point. The point..." He stood, walked to the kitchen, and poured himself a glass of water like we were discussing weekend plans and not corporate betrayal. "I didn't acknowledge you," he said, "because I don't mix business with whatever this is." This is a marriage," I snapped. "A contract," he corrected. And there it was, the cold voice, the distance. "You made me feel invisible," I whispered. He looked at me for a long time, then said softly, "You were never invisible." And just like that, I couldn't tell if I hated him or if I was starting to fall. Chapter 5. The heart of... I wasn't supposed to enter the design contest. The flyer was pinned to the staff board like a cruel joke. Luxton Jewelry's Emerging Artist Showcase. Grand prize? A year-long mentorship with their elite design team, plus a $50,000 0-cents commission. It was the kind of opportunity people dreamed of. But people like me weren't supposed to dream. I was a barista in borrowed boots, a fake wife with a fake last name, and a sketchbook full of ideas no one had ever seen, except for one person. My grandmother. She used to say my hands were made for beauty, that I saw stories in gemstones the way others saw numbers or names. She taught me to draw rings from memory, earrings from feeling, and necklaces that followed the line of the collarbone like a whispered promise. She also used to wear a pendant. It was small, silver, shaped like a broken heart, the top edge chipped like it had once belonged to something larger, as if it was only half of what it was meant to be. She called it the heart. And when she died, the pendant was gone. No note, no explanation, just gone. Until last week when I saw it. In a Luxton display case. Under glass. Priced at $500,000. Labeled the Heart of Luxton, donated anonymously. My grandmother's necklace. They stole it, or someone did, or maybe she sold it when things got hard and never told me. Either way, I knew I had to get closer. I had to get inside. So I entered the contest. I didn't tell Grayson. I didn't tell anyone. At night, I drew on the floor of the penthouse kitchen, paper spread like wings across the tile, my fingers smudged with pencil and hope. I designed pieces that felt like her, like the woman who taught me to fight quietly, to believe in worth without needing a label. One evening, he caught me. He came home early, no warning, no footsteps, just appeared in the doorway in his black coat, watching me surrounded by graphite and sketches and something like grief. "A design?" he asked. I shrugged. "Sometimes." He walked over slowly, picked up one of the drawings. It was a ring, a twisted silver band shaped like vines around a rough-cut gem. "You did this?" He didn't speak for a long time, just traced the lines with his thumb like he was reading them in Braille. Finally, "It's good." "Thanks," I said quietly, waiting for the part where he laughed, or dismissed it, or called it cute. But he didn't. I woke. He set it back down and looked at me differently, like he was starting to see past the sarcasm and the coffee-stained apron and the marriage of convenience. You want this?" he asked. "To win." I hesitated. Then honestly, I just want the truth. I want to know where that necklace came from, why it's there, why I wasn't told. He nodded once, slowly, then win. That night, he made dinner. Not fancy, just grilled cheese and tomato soup. We didn't talk about the contest again. But when I woke up the next morning, there was a small white envelope on the kitchen table with one sentence written in his hand. "Submission deadline extended until Friday. Consider it handled." And for the first time in my life, someone moved a mountain for me, quietly, without asking for anything in return. Chapter 6. A Thief in the Spotlight. I should have known the world wouldn't let me have this quietly. The showcase was held in the Luxton atrium, all marble floors and glass ceilings, with chandeliers that sparkled like rain trapped in time. I wore black, kept my hair back, and prayed no one would notice my hands shaking. My design, the broken line, sat under a spotlight near the judge's table. A minimalist necklace with a jagged cut down the center, two halves slightly misaligned, the clasp hidden at the edge. It wasn't flashy, but it was real, it was mine. I didn't expect to win. I only wanted someone to see it, to feel what I felt when I sketched it at 2 a.m. while the world slept and my heart screamed. But then the murmurs began. First a whisper behind me, then a cough, then the sharp click of heels that only ever meant trouble. And she walked in like a headline. Zoe Vale. Luxton's golden girl. Heiress by blood, designer by name only. She smiled like she'd already won, because she always had. Until today. She paused when she saw my piece, stared, too long. Then she smirked. And I knew. I knew. The judges stepped forward to announce the finalists. They started with her. Zoe Vale's fracture and form, the announcer said. I turned slowly toward the screen where her piece was projected. Stumor dropped. It was mine. Not similar, not inspired by, not even reinterpreted. My same jagged split, same curvature, same hidden clasp. Even the asymmetry, the part that made it imperfect, personal. She'd copied that too. My body went cold. I stepped forward, heart pounding, but someone else beat me to it. "Excuse me," Grayson said from the front row. He stood up, black suit, no tie, expression unreadable, and looked directly at the judges. Seems to be a problem with the originality of that design. Gasps rippled through the audience. Zoe laughed too loudly. "What are you talking about?" He didn't answer her. Instead, he looked at me. "Jenna," he said calmly, "show them your sketchbook." The world went still. I hadn't told him I brought it. I hadn't told anyone. But I had tucked into my portfolio case, pages still smudged from my fingertips. My hands trembled as I opened it. Flipped to the original, the broken line drawn in pencil and love weeks ago. The judges leaned in, compared dates, traced lines. Zoe's voice rose higher. "This is ridiculous. She's faking it. I've never seen her before in my life." That someone had seen. Grayson stepped forward again, this time with a printed email. He handed it to the lead judge. "Anonymous internal server logs," he said. "Downloaded 2 nights ago. Same design, same file name. Accessed from Zoe Vale's work terminal." A beat of silence. Then, "Miss Vale," one judge said carefully, "you're disqualified." The applause was tentative, then real. Zoe stormed out in heels that echoed like thunder. I stood there, blinking, the world rushing in too fast. I didn't win the contest, but I got something better. I got my name back. And when I turned to Grayson, something cracked behind his eyes. Pride. Relief. Maybe something more dangerous. "Why do you help me?" I whispered. He leaned in close. "Because you don't belong in the background, Jenna." Then he handed me something small. Velvet box. Inside was the heart. Not a replica, not a copy, the pendant from my grandmother's neck, the one that had vanished. "You bought it?" I breathed. "No," he said. "I kept it safe." I looked up at him, confused, emotional, already falling harder than I should. "You knew this whole time?" I was waiting for the right moment. No moment. He held my gaze. At the moment you remembered who you are. The girl behind the veil. I couldn't stop staring at the pendant. It rested in my palm like a heartbeat. Small, scratched, shaped like half a heart, imperfect and honest, just like she was. I hadn't held it since the night my grandmother died, the night the world cracked and swallowed what little was left of me. "You kept it safe," I whispered again. unsure whether I was talking to him or to myself. Grayson just watched me. We were alone now. The showroom had emptied, the spotlight had turned off, my sketchbook was zipped away, but I was still trembling. Did you get it?" I asked. He hesitated, and in that pause I saw the crack in his armor. It was submitted as part of an estate clearance. "You were in my room," I blinked. "Why like that?" he said quickly. "You left the door open. You talk in your sleep." My cheeks flushed, but I didn't look away. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because I didn't know what it meant to you. Not until you started sketching it. Not until you entered the contest." I studied him, the way his voice softened when he got too close to the truth, the way his hands stayed in his pockets when they clearly wanted to reach for something more. "You know everything, don't you?" I asked, "even the parts I never say out loud." "I don't know everything," he said quietly, "but I pay attention." The room went still again, only this time it wasn't silence. It was tension. Warm, inevitable, and terrifying. Because I realized I wasn't the only one hiding behind something. "Grayson," I said, "who are you, really?" He looked down, and when he looked back up, something in him had changed. "Come with me," he said. We didn't speak in the elevator. His silence wasn't cold. It was heavy, like something he'd carried for too long. We ended up on the rooftop. Windy, quiet. The skyline of Seattle spread out like a promise we were too scared to keep. He pulled something from his coat pocket, a folded newspaper clipping. I took it. It was an old article. "Tech prodigy vanishes after tragedy. Grayson Ward steps down from family empire." I blinked. "You left your own company." "I ran," he corrected. "After my brother died, I couldn't breathe in those boardrooms anymore. Everyone wanted to inherit. I just wanted to forget." "I know. I'm trying again, but this time I didn't want a fake image. I wanted to build something real, quietly, anonymously." He looked at me. "Until you." I opened my mouth, but he held up a hand. "I didn't mean to fall into this. The fake marriage, the lie, but the more I watched you," his voice cracked. "You weren't pretending, you were just surviving, and you did it with so much fire." A beat. "I haven't met anyone like you, Jenna." Tears welled in my eyes before I could stop them. Not because of what he said, but how he said it. Like he'd been holding it in for years. "I don't know what to do with this," I admitted. "Me neither." We stood in the wind, not touching, not kissing, just existing in the same raw, terrifying truth. Then he said it. Softly. Like a secret. Like a vow. "You're the first person I've ever taken the mask off for." And I realized for all my pretending, all my ugly dresses and fake smiles, I wasn't the only one who wore a disguise. Some veils weren't made of lace or lies. Some were made of silence. And his had just fallen. Chapter 8. The Day the Heart Was Stolen. It should have been a celebration. The atrium at Luxton was transformed into a dream. Velvet drapes, champagne fountains, strings of lights curling through the rafters like constellations. The Masquerade Charity Gala was the kind of event people flew across oceans to attend. But I wasn't thinking about the guests, or the gowns, or even the check with my name on it waiting beside the awards table. I was thinking about the heart. The pendant, my grandmother's, was being featured that night as the centerpiece of the final auction. Grayson had arranged it, his way of restoring it under my name, giving me back the history I'd lost. And for the first time, I felt like I belonged in a room like that. Till the lights flickered. Just once. A blink. Barely noticeable except that when they came back on, the glass case holding the pendant was empty. At first, no one reacted. They thought it was part of the presentation. Maybe the curator had moved it. Maybe it had already been sold. But then the alarm tripped, and the room cracked open like a dropped plate. Voices rose, phones came out. The MC tried to calm the guests, but it was useless. The heart was gone, and I was the last person seen standing near the display. I froze. Security came first, then a whisper through the crowd like wind through dry grass. It's her, the designer. Wasn't that her family's piece? Then came the headlines. Before the night even ended. Rising designer caught in theft scandal. From Cinderella to suspect. Was the marriage a setup? I couldn't breathe. Grayson pushed through the crowd, his jaw tight, his arm finding me fast. Don't say a word, he muttered. They think I said don't. Again, his voice was harsh. Nope. He pulled me close and shielded me from the camera flashes. The next 20 minutes felt like a war zone. Metal detectors, guest lockdown, no one could leave until the investigation was underway. We were taken to a private room. My heart thundered like it might bruise my ribs. Someone framed me, I whispered. I know. You believe me? Grayson looked at me like I'd just asked if the sky was still above us. Of course. That's when I broke. Not because I was accused, but because someone believed me without question. For the first time in my life, I sank into the couch. He knelt in front of me. Listen, he said, we'll find it. The heart. The person who did this. I promise. I just wanted to honor her, I whispered. My grandma. She believed I'd do something that mattered. He brushed a strand of hair from my face. You already have? Outside the door, chaos reigned. Inside, I felt something far more dangerous than accusation. I felt safe. Until the knock came. A security guard opened the door and nodded toward Grayson. There's someone who says they saw something, he said. Someone from your staff. My heart caught. Who? Grayson asked. The guard hesitated. A temp, woman in catering. She says she saw someone mess with the display. To bring her in. But it wasn't the temp I expected. It was Zoe Vale in a staff apron and red lipstick. She smiled, too sweetly. I just thought you'd want to know. I saw Jenna near the display, right before the lights went out. Grayson didn't flinch. Of course you did, he said coldly. How convenient. Zoe turned to me. You shouldn't have embarrassed me at the contest. Now you'll learn what it feels like to lose everything. I stood up, my legs like lead. But I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just said, do you know what the heart means to me? Zoe blinked, uncertain. It's not just a jewel. It's not just history. It's everything I lost. And then I turned to Grayson. I'm going to find it. He nodded. And in that moment, we weren't husband and wife by contract anymore. We were something else. Something forged in fire. Chapter 9. Your name is still on my paper. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the cold marble floor of the penthouse kitchen, surrounded by half-finished sketches and untouched tea. My phone kept buzzing with notifications, news alerts, gossip headlines, anonymous messages that all said the same thing. Thief, liar, gold digger. But I didn't cry. I drew. Because the only way I knew how to keep breathing was to put pencil to paper and make something beautiful in the middle of ruin. At dawn, the front door opened. I didn't need to look up to know it was him. Grayson crossed the room slowly, his tie loose, his coat soaked from the rain. He stopped in front of me, looking down at the chaos of charcoal lines and bitter silence. You haven't slept, he said. Didn't want to. We traced the security footage. I looked up. It was Zoe, he confirmed. She had access, she knew the system, but she didn't act alone. I waited. Grayson walked to the counter, pulled open a drawer, and handed me a folder. Inside, a photo of Zoe and a familiar figure beside her. A man with slicked back hair and a smirk that made my stomach twist. Philip Vale, Zoe's brother, and Luxton's head of internal security. They'd framed me from the start. I closed the folder. And now what? I asked, my voice flat. Grayson studied me, then, very quietly, you don't have to go through this. What are you saying? I can fix it. Make it go away. We'll release the footage, press charges. You don't even have to show up in court. We'll protect your name. I laughed, dry and tired. My name, Grayson? I signed it away, months ago, to you. He stepped closer. You didn't sign your soul away. I signed my silence, I said, standing now, fists clenched. I married you for convenience. I played a part, and maybe I thought, somewhere along the line, you saw me. But now, I'm the liability, right? The wife who's too messy to keep. He flinched like I'd struck him. That's not? I'm not her, I said. Not the quiet designer in the corner. Not the girl who lets people write her story for her. I found my voice, Grayson, and I'm not giving it up. Not for you, not for anyone. He didn't say a word. So I grabbed the folder and walked away. Halfway down the hallway, he called out, "Your name is still on my paper." I stopped. He stepped into the light, hair wet, shirt wrinkled, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. "I've written that divorce document 3 times, he said. Each time I stopped when I got to your name. But my heart thudded. You didn't have to stay, I whispered. I didn't want to go, he replied. Silence pulsed between us. I meant what I said, I told him. I'm going to fix this. Not because I need your protection, but because my grandmother's memory deserves better. I deserve better. Grayson stepped forward. Then let's do it together. And just like that, the wall between us cracked. Not completely, but enough to let light in. Chapter 10. The Bride in Disguise. I never imagined clearing my name would involve microphones, marble stairs, and national press. But there I stood in a white suit, not a dress, hair pulled back, nerves shaking in my shoes as the cameras flashed. The Luxton board had insisted on a formal statement to preserve the brand image. Grayson insisted I didn't owe them anything, but I said yes, not for them, for me, and for her. The woman who once wore a cracked silver heart and believed her granddaughter would do something that mattered. Miss Cross, a reporter called out, do you admit to stealing the heart of Luxton? I took the mic. Steady hands, steadier voice. I said, I admit to surviving. I admit to working 2 jobs and designing jewelry on kitchen floors while the world forgot I existed. But I don't admit to theft. Another voice. Then who stole it? Someone who thought I'd stay quiet, I said. But they don't know me. I glanced to the side. Grayson was standing off camera, arms crossed, watching me like he was seeing sunlight for the first time. I say love is a distraction, I continued. But real love doesn't hide you. It holds the light still long enough for you to find yourself in it. The room quieted. I looked down, opened the velvet box. Inside was the heart returned, now protected by my own name, my design, my truth. The piece was recovered last night, I said calmly, and the ones who took it will face justice. Flashbulbs popped, questions rose. I didn't answer them. I simply walked away. I found Grayson by the car. You didn't have to come, I said. He opened the door for me. You always say that. Say what? Only I don't have to, but I want to. I paused. Why? He leaned against the frame. For once, not the CEO, not the mystery, just a man. Because the day I met you, dressed like a walking fashion disaster, I saw more truth in you than in all the boardrooms I've ever stepped into. I laughed. You married me that day. We was a business deal? It stopped being a business deal the second you looked at me and didn't care who I was. I swallowed. Then what is it now? He stepped closer. It's real. I waited, not for the kiss, for the pause before it, the space where decision lives, the breath before vulnerability. He didn't kiss me right away. He just said, I want to marry you again. This time, for real. My throat tightened. I'm still a mess, I whispered. So am I. I burn toast. I can make eggs. I hate neckties. Perfect. I hate wearing them. I laughed through the tears. And then finally, okay, I whispered. Yes. And this time, when he kissed me, it wasn't a contract. It was a beginning. The real name was always enough. We didn't have a grand wedding the second time. There were no fireworks, no baldagon, no gala guest list. Just us. Barefoot in the garden behind the penthouse, a string of lights borrowed from the rooftop terrace, a friend with a guitar, a folded piece of paper with vows scribbled at 2 a.m. I wore my grandmother's necklace. He wore a crooked boutonniere I pinned myself. And when we said I do, it wasn't in front of a crowd. It was in front of the pieces of ourselves we once hidden, the names we stopped answering to, the people we tried to become to survive. He said, "You made me human again." And I said, "You made me feel seen without needing to be beautiful first." That night, we danced in the dark. No masks, no lies, no pretending. Just two people who had no business finding each other. But somehow did anyway. Some people marry for love, some for security, some just to escape the silence they've been trapped in too long. But sometimes, the most unexpected promises become the ones that save us. Jenna didn't need a prince. She needed someone who could handle her truth. And Grayson didn't need perfection. He needed someone who saw through his power to the grief underneath. If you've ever felt like you had to shrink yourself to be loved, if you've ever worn someone else's name and forgotten the sound of your own, then this story is for you. Because one day, someone will look at you, messy, honest, unfiltered, and say, "You don't have to hide anymore." If you've ever been the girl in the ugly dress, the man in the mask, or the person who signed a contract just to feel less alone, tell us your story in the comments. Maybe, just maybe, someone out there is waiting to say, "Me too." And just like that, you won't be invisible anymore. Thank you for watching. This love was quiet, but it was real. And sometimes that's more than enough.